Okay, we're good. Oh.
Can we restart the recording?
Yeah.
I think we can we trim it out the beginning? Because the beginning is awkward. Yeah, we just trim it out.
Okay.
Get the good goes out.
Alright. Hello, my name is Layla Lee. I'm 22 years old. I am a speech pathology major at Golden West.
My name's Andy. I'm a landscape architect major at Cal Poly SLO.
Hello, my name is Tim Tran and I am 19. I am studying computer science at Orange Coast College.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I'm 19 and I'm a biomedical engineer at Golden West College.
Hi, my name is Monique. I'm 18 years old and this is my second year at Golden West College.
So everyone partakes in different types of relationships, and often there is conflict that happens. Many attributions to how conflict may start. Two types that may create conflict in relationships are power and influence. A theory that explains different situations where influence and power may impact the conflict is French and Raven's 6 bases of power. The 6 bases of power are informational power, coercive reward power, legitimate power, expert power, referent power, and influence and power. We will only be speaking about 5 of the 6 bases of power, which are informational power, coercive/reward power, legitimate power, expert power, and referent power. So my article, Legitimate Power in the Workplace, describes how power in the workplace may exist in different forms and derived from positions the person holds. It further expands the idea of how legitimate power would be implied in the workplace by providing several reasons why it may occur and be accepted. For example, it may be a cultural norm for a person with a lower position to listen to a higher up's instructions without complaints. The article continues by explaining the advantages and disadvantages of legitimate power. The significance of this article is to present how legitimate power is common in the workplace. By defining and showing different examples, it gives the receiver knowledge and understanding of their situations. From this, they are able to make informed decisions that are within their limitations while being assertive. No one is immune to the falling victim to legitimate power. Therefore, it is important to acquire a comprehension of nuances of the reality of legitimate power. After this article, the takeaways: the artist should understand the situations with legitimate power would occur, especially in places with a hierarchy. Through the projection of legitimate power in the workplace, productivity and efficiency can be seen as positive outcomes and advantages. Despite that, it promotes negative outcomes such as abuse of power, discourages employee loyalty, and overall dissatisfaction within the team. Even with people with higher positions may have more authority, it does not equate to competent leadership.
So in my article called Passing the Word Toward a Model of Gossip and Power in the Workplace, researchers studied gossip in the workplace and its effect on the 5 bases of power. And it's important to remember in this article, gossip isn't necessarily negative. It's actually considered an informal and evaluative talk. And researchers found 2 things specifically that would enhance our expert power through the process of gossiping. So why does this apply to you? Well, each of us are going to college, hopefully, to want to be an expert in a field and eventually get a job where we could utilize that expert power. Expert power can sway like huge groups of your coworkers. We see this with people expertise, with being a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer. Their word over everyone else is valued because they have knowledge on the subject. So we will all work somewhere with gossip, and we can use it to enhance our expert power over the gossip recipients. So how do you do this? First, you want to make sure that your workplace is okay with gossip. Some workplaces do not value informal talk, and it can instead be seen as unprofessional. So first check if your workplace is okay with informal communication. And if they are, then it can be used as an exchange of data where the recipient learns more about the organization's values and the gossiper has relevant knowledge about their fellow coworkers because of it. Information, though, the two big things are that the information must be credible and work related if you're going to gossip. So you don't want to tell lies about your coworkers' personal life or anything like that. You should keep it professional and with topics that are relevant to the person you're gossiping to, such as salary. Now, personally, I do not try to engage in workplace gossip. It's just not something I enjoy doing. But one time, I did have a coworker named Pablo who was extremely slow at his job to the point where my fellow coworker gossiped to me and told me that she didn't get off work till an hour after she was supposed to because Pablo was so slow. And when I worked with Pablo, I told her I had to do all of his work for him in order to get out on time. So in that case, my coworkers and I did gossip and exchange info that was credible and work related. So our expert power rose. We were not spreading lies or personally attacking Pablo. We just all agreed that Pablo should do his part and do his work so we could all go home on time. So yeah, expert power in that sense, gossiping helped raise our expert power because we're able to recognize as a collective that what we were doing our work was appropriate for the job, and Pablo, who wasn't doing his work, he wasn't showing expertise in the field.
In my article, Managing Humans Information Starvation, the author paints a scenario where there's an incompetent manager who is tasked with determining who is laid off in the company and who stays, and a talented engineer who is like the star of the company, but she has like no rational reason to be terminated from her job. It demonstrates the power of information and how the lack of information makes people create their own false information, which could be detrimental to the company's efficiency and how the employee themselves work. The article also gives out pointers on how to prevent this scenario, which is through effective relaying of information. It showcases the lack of information as some people not in positions of power. It causes those in the dark without information to fabricate their own fantasy and create false information, which would fill in the gaps in their knowledge that wasn't told directly and explicitly to them by people in managerial positions. It's also relevant to the audience because there's a lot of people, or most people in the working industry aren't in managerial positions, and the people who are working that aren't in the working class are in managerial positions. So it applies to everybody. It affects everybody because it shows how people in managerial positions can improve how they manage their employees by being more transparent and communicating all the information, no matter how redundant or repetitive or like how unimportant it seems to them. But that bit of information could be extremely impactful and could decide whether that employee is able to continue their job or not, or how secure they feel in their job. The author also concludes the article with different ways information can be used to empower those who lack it, rather than the lack of information controlling them. Managers should be transparent in communicating with others because it is their job, with all the power of informational power, to relay it to their coworkers. Being transparent and communicating with others what information a manager would have doesn't seem important and significant to them, but there is a lot of effects that informational power has on the worker themselves. Information is extremely valuable, and those with information can fulfill their jobs and duties efficiently. Information exchange is a form of communication where the sender is expected to anticipate the needs of the receiver and create seamless flow of information within the workplace or any environment with multiple employees.
Okay. And for my power, the referent power, I found from the following article, the Journal of Values Based on Leadership from the Pro Razio University. and how it provides examples of the referent power and how it's used in a workplace setting. It is also called referent power or personal power, and is a power of interpersonal communication that is commonly used in leadership positions to help motivate others to gather together and perform their job well and with pride. This power also applies to anyone in a position of authority, such as a leader of a troop or a captain of like a ship. And the importance of this article is how referent power is applied to the workplace and in day-to-day life. You don't have to just be like a boss or a manager of a big company or a business in order to be seen as a leader and to use this power. And it provides a variety of different situations and how it can be used. And the key takeaways from this article would be how leadership is applied to a situation where a group requires a leader, and how advertisements target their key audience with the help of charismatic and feel-good people. So that way they have a vibe and they can feel empowered and feel like they're being led into a positive experience and have a positive experience.
In the article, Reward Power in the Workplace and How to Motivate Employees, reward power is important in the workplace because it creates motivation and enthusiasm. If you are a leader in a workplace, putting additional pressure and stress on employees won't make work a healthy environment, and nobody wants to dread going to work. You know, work is supposed to not be such an awful place that we make it seem. Instead, leaders should distribute rewards in return for reaching a certain goal. So when you incorporate this power in the workforce, you will give the employees the recognition they deserve. However, in the article, coercive power in the workplace, everything you need to know, this power is a negative source of power because it uses the threat of punishment and fear to make employees get work done. Employers who use this power usually don't ever use reward power because they don't want to be seen as weak. And in these articles, we can see different characteristics of the powers and how we can detect them when management is using them. If we become the ones with the power in the workplace, it's important to decide which power you want to put out there and the power that has the best benefits on your employees and yourself as well. When using reward power, you need to be fair in your choice of reward because you want to show employees you value their time and you want to recognize the hard work they put in for you. It's important to communicate with them why they're being rewarded so they can continue to keep doing the stuff, you know, they can continue to be motivated by that. The takeaways is that it is authoritarian and the use of threats is very common for this type of influence. And now we're going to move on to the application video. And for the application video, we're going to be showing a clip from SpongeBob that demonstrates all the 5 powers we discussed. And at first, when you see it, you don't really notice the 5 bases of power we're talking about, but once you start to understand it and really dissect it, you can see where all the powers come to play in it.
This video illustrates how effective legitimate power is towards the receiver. In the video, Squidward openly complains that the Krusty Krab is unsanitary and unfit workplace. Despite his concerns, Mr. Krabs, who is the boss and owner of Krusty Krab, explains that this is fitting for his workers and customers. Despite feeling the contrary, Squidward halted on discussing the possible improvements for the workplace. SpongeBob, on the other hand, takes Mr. Krabs' word without hesitation and accepts them at face value. Through this, we can see that legitimate power is a tool for those that are in positions of higher authority to control and restrain those working for them.
Video shows expert power, most obviously Squidward being wanted by Plankton for his restaurant knowledge. Plankton has always wanted his restaurant to be successful throughout the whole SpongeBob series, and Squidward has the skills and possibly the secret Krabby formula that could make the Chum Bucket a success. So he has expert power in that way. Squidward even says, "My knowledge and intelligence could even make the chum bucket a success," in quotes. In terms of gossip, Squidward gossips to SpongeBob about Mr. Krabs being a cheap boss. And since this is work related and incredible, Mr. Krabs is very cheap. According to the researchers, his expert power would have been enhanced in his relationship with SpongeBob.
The video also illustrates an example of the effects that informational power has. Similar to my article, Mr. Krabs is in a managerial position where he has a lot of information about running the business because he runs the Krusty Krab. And Squidward, his job in the restaurant is only as a cashier, not in a managerial position. So in the clip, Mr. Krabs withholds information from Squidward, and Squidward mistakenly believes that running a restaurant is really easy when in reality there's a lot more that goes into running a restaurant than having a good palate and cooking knowledge. The lack of information has made Squidward to create like a false fantasy in his head, which led to his downfall when his inexperience is the leading cause of the chum bucket being vandalized by customers at the end of the video.
In the following video, it shows a great example of how referent power is used in day-to-day life, with Squidward taking up the leadership position in fixing up the chum bucket for Plankton and Karen after he decides to quit his job at the Krusty Krab. Squidward does his best to make sure that the chum bucket is at the best that it can be and pitches new ideas to better market and profit off the sales to Plankton and Karen. By taking his leadership, I'm
so sorry.
By taking this leadership position, he is able to express how he feels and what he wants best for the company.
Sorry. The application video demonstrates reward power because Squidward would gain satisfaction rubbing it in Mr. Krabs' face that he could run a better restaurant. It also shows coercive power because Plankton uses emotion to get Squidward to work at the chum bucket, and the emotion was anger.
Thank you for listening to our presentation video. We appreciate the time you took out to watch and get our presentation on French Raven's 5 Bases of Power. We're hoping that the audience learned the difference between these 5 different powers and why it is important to pick the power that has the best positive influence on people. Every type of power has advantages and disadvantages, but the leader should implement the power that does not have a mental and physical drain on the employees. These powers should be able to implement a successful and healthy work environment that will benefit all participating parties involved in a given situation. We hope that the 5 bases of power will help others enhance a positive work environment for themselves and the people around them.
Even though we are made aware of these 6 bases of power, it allows us to have an impact on how others can guide and manage people around us to achieve the highest performance. Communication can be improved in this area by trying to understand your relationship with the person who has control over you. Along with this, people can abuse this power and use it for their benefit rather than benefiting those around them. We hope that our information will encourage others to have a healthy and positive work environment.
We talked about the 5 bases of power in the context of business and the workforce. When managers and leaders can influence someone's character or behavior, we call that power. Those leaders need to find the power that leads to business and companies operating more efficiently. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation.